Meeting of the City of Friendswood-Planning and Zoning Commission to be held Thursday, January 19, 2017, beginning at 7 p.m. in the council chambers at City Hall, located at 910 South Friendswood Drive, Friendswood, Texas. I'd like to call our meeting to order. Not seeing anyone that is here, I don't believe, in terms of committee or public liaisons. Let's move on then to our consent agenda. Again, we've bundled our minutes and several other things, but I believe all of these have been discussed in the past, so if everyone's...
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through D.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Show it to pass unanimously. Kevin's record's in jeopardy. Item 4, consideration and possible action regarding a recommendation to change Chapter 54, Section 54-95, maximum permissible sound levels A1B residential during nighttime hours from 58 dB to 55 dB. This item was tabled back in December 15th, 2016. Do I have a motion to remove from the table?
Motion to remove it from the table.
Motion to remove. Do I have a second?
Second.
And I have a second.
And do we need another motion to discuss or approve?
We need a vote
Okay.
to remove it from the
So
table.
all those in favor of removing from the table, say aye.
Aye.
Show it to be unanimous. Now we can discuss. Craig, why don't you just give us a little bit of overview as to what we're doing here?
Okay. We've already discussed most of what is in this presentation, but before we get going here, do we need another motion?
We can do a motion to discuss, just so our bases are covered.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
Motion to discuss.
Okay, I was hoping for a motion to approve so we could go to city council, but, all right, we'll discuss.
Do you want
We
me to
were-
change that? I thought that's what you wanted, was a motion to discuss.
I'd like you to change
I
it.
know, well, we're not proposing any,
I want to take this forward as our position to city council, so I want to make sure that we're in agreement before I do that. And so you don't get that out of a motion to discuss.
okay, that's,
Okay?
Can I have a second motion after
Is it,
if you want to change your motion.
I rescind my motion to discuss and change it to motion to approve. Didn't you second it?
So we have a motion to approve, and I would need a second then to move.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second.
Now we can discuss.
Now we can discuss.
Okay. Do we have these loaded on the system, the charts? Can we bring them up? And, you know, when we last met on this, I'll just show you the kind of the direction that I believe we ought to be headed. Yep. Animal nuisances, no.
So, and we're going to be making this
Just go to the next chart. There was considerable discussion, and we got focused in on whether or not it ought to be what the city standard is today, 58 dB at night or 55 dB and all that. And looking at this, I don't think that's as important as solving the problem. So the way I propose to address this is go back to council, next chart. You know, I'll tell them what we did, and talk about the review that we did at Kroger. We are not going to discuss any code violations or anything like that with regard to any of these, but we are going to state that it is a problem. Noise is a problem. Okay, next chart. That's the pictures of the site that we went to. Next chart. And we'll use these pictures to basically describe that what we're proposing for visual screening and all that, it works. It's very good. It's already worked before, and on this one, I'm going to bring up the example of the noise, and and then go right into the next chart. Talk about noise impacts, and we'll talk about impact noise, and we'll talk about noise above ambient, and that impulse noise can be restricted to daylight hours, which it already is by ordinance, and noise above the ambient threshold can be managed by maintaining to the standard that we currently have. Okay, next chart. And then did some benchmarking. Here's where we sit with, and we're compared to other cities in the state, other cities nearby. Some mandate this at the state level, like the state of Maryland, and we're right in about the middle. It's something that maybe council might want to look at later on, because it's this particular ordinance is out of our purview, but they might want to take a look at it and decide they might want to do something differently than we're doing right now in terms of noise standards. And then next chart. And our consensus is that we maintain our daylight and nighttime standards where they are, and that in order to make sure, because we've been out there, we've seen that it's a hard thing to do, and today we require lighting plans because we know that's a difficult thing to do, and so we're going to require that they provide us with a noise mitigation plan so that we can make sure they paid attention to it, so that when they do get built out, it'll meet our standard. And again, this is to amend what we've already put out there in front of the council. And this will then go in with a list of the other things that they've already seen and agreed to, and then we're going to ask for a first reading on this. Comments?
Just so I'm clear, you're not, as the motion stands, you're not actually asking for the decibels to be lowered?
No.
We're asking for a plan to get there, and I think this is a great way to propose it.
What we're asking them to do, what's different, after looking at this for the mayor, he told us to take a look at it and to make sure we weren't harming residential areas, and we did. And I initially thought we ought to lower it because everybody else was lowered. I don't think that's. I think that's not the issue, but it's going to become the issue, and that ordinance is not this commission's issue or purview. If the city council wants to look at the where we are and do some further benchmarking and consider that, that's fine, but do it outside of this. Right now, we'd like to get our entire proposal approved and through the process, and I think that's more important than arguing about 3 dB.
Right. I guess my question, defining my question again, is, so you're hoping this motion does not pass? Because the way it's reading right now.
I think we need to.
Have to amend. We'll have
As
to
I'm
amend
reading
this.
it sounds like to me that a vote to approve this would in fact put those 3 dBs as part and parcel of what we're sending.
Yeah, because the agenda item says it's a recommendation to change Chapter 54 to reduce the dBs to 55.
So how do we go about
So-
amending this if that's
Just
what we're
fail
attempting
it.
to do? This fails and then we put another one out there? Because we're really proposing an amendment to this.
Right, because
Yeah.
we want to propose to leave it at 58 and still require the plan that they're going to comply with the current requirements is what we have on the table. So,
I think
That's not quite it, is it?
this, again, I think this probably got worded a little too specific, more specific than it should have when we wrote it down, but maybe we can clear it up by just doing a motion to approve and an amended agenda item that addresses the mayor's concern about visual and audio impacts of big box. I think that makes more sense. We put the whole thing on the table, not just this one item.
True. But
Somebody needs to amend the motion, man.
yeah, we need to amend
I
this.
don't think we, yeah. I don't
Or do
think
we just
can
shoot
get
this one
there
down
with
and start
what's on
over?
the table now. So what one thing I'll just, for my own clarity, if I'm hearing you correct, we don't want to send to council a recommendation that asks for a 3 dB reduction.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
We're just asking for a mechanism to ensure that the developer plans to meet the sound standards.
So Aubrey, help us here. How do we get there? Because I'm not sure that the way this thing is written, or certainly the way we've got it before, if we all raise our hand, I think we just sent that 3 dB recommendation for lowering to them.
The added requirement to require the mitigation plan, we voted on before on the other items that we added already, so that part is already done. So if we just vote this down, this just goes away and we go forward with the mitigation plan and we don't recommend to change.
So keeping.
But I could vote this down, but then do I have concurrence that this is what we're going to take to the workshop?
For me, you do, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, I liked your program, just don't want to inadvertently drift into something here. So just for super clarity here, at the moment we take this vote, if we keep our hand down, then we're not sending a 3D reducing recommendation to council.
Correct,
To raise our hands, we would be doing that.
correct.
Okay. Are we ready to take this vote?
Yes.
So all in favor of sending a 3 dB reduction to council, say aye. All those opposed, I show it to be unanimously opposed.
Right.
Okay, good, thanks. Thank you, Craig.
You're welcome.
I'm very pleased. I was coming in saying I don't support this, and so I'm glad great minds follow the same path of messing with the dB levels. I like what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it needs to be addressed, but I think we would lose what we really want to get done by messing around with this for the next 3 months. And, you know, at some point, city council needs to look at this and say, is this adequate? You know, but it's not going to make their agenda because I don't think there's that many
Yeah,
complaints.
we voted, so we need
We
to,
can't discuss it anymore.
Item 5, thank you again, Craig. Consideration and possible action regarding update to the zoning ordinance, section 7P, permitted uses, specifically the annual review of the permitted use table and receive staff report regarding revised Nikes codes. Do I have a motion to discuss?
Motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss.
I'll second the motion.
And a second, so we can discuss. Aubrey, you want to give us an overview?
yes, sir. So section 7, under the permitted uses section of the zoning ordinance, it does, all of our code references in the permitted use table are taken from the NAICS reference book. That reference book is updated every 5 years, so it was updated for 2017. In your backup material, I went through and deleted a lot of the codes that made this document a lot smaller. So these were the only affected changes from 2012 to 17. None of them affected because we only expand like 3 numbers out. So none of the changes affect our references. And then the permitted use table as a whole, staff usually tries to keep notes throughout the year on any changes that we have inquiries about over and over again, and kind of have issues come up, and we don't really have any for this year. So unless any of y'all have any, concerns about any that you want to discuss, then we'll just mark this as our annual review. And the section, or number 5, we need to take that 1997 reference out of there, but when we do some of our zoning ordinance updates, we just need to say current NAICS code book, so we can make that tweak later with something else.
Everybody good? And we don't need to take a vote on this, so we'll move to item 6, consideration possible action regarding future planning and zoning meeting dates. Aubrey?
We have our retreat this Saturday, January 21st. It will start at 8:30 till about noon. The location has been changed to the library, the small conference room at the library.
Are we sure there'll be someone there to open it for us?
Yes,
Okay.
we're going to pick up a key from the librarian tomorrow.
Sweet. Good thinking, way ahead. Nice. I've been there before at 10 o'clock and they're not open. Good.
Yeah, they don't open till
10.
10. Yes, and he said staff don't get there till 9:30, so we're gonna get a key.
Who's going to be in attendance to that, for that?
All of the commission, myself, Becky, Mayor Kevin Holland, our city manager Roger Rucker, assistant city manager Rod Kabiri, and Joe Gonzalez is our facilitator. He facilitates the council retreats as well.
You'll have to excuse me, this is my first. Is there an agenda that comes out beforehand of what we're going to be covering?
I posted an agenda
Oh, I missed that.
for
Okay.
us, but it's basically just discussion and planning for the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's not anything.
It's a one-line agenda. Okay.
And I guess it's open to the public.
It is a public meeting, so the agenda was posted, so the public is welcome to attend. Our February 2nd is our next regular meeting. At that meeting, James Toney is going to be presenting our Parks Master Plan and going over that. And then February 6th is the following Monday. We do have a work session on the large retail schedule with City Council. So that will be scheduled to start around 4:30 or 5. And then that same night, we'll have a joint public hearing and regular meeting for the same item for the actual ordinance change. So be a long evening. And then February 16th is our second regular meeting for February. And Patrick Donart will be presenting the capital improvements program that night.
Damn.
Busy month.
Thank you, Aubrey.
You're welcome.
Item 7, communications from the commission. Richard?
There was no CEDC meeting between our last meeting and this. I did attend a FDEDC, thank you. We had a proposal to them to bury some cables that Sally and Brett and I worked on we've got an AT&T proposal for $60,000 to bury the cable from Castlewood to Clearwater, or where the Corey Diamonds is, which works out to about $50 a foot, which is quite inexpensive. It seems like a lot of money, but it's quite inexpensive compared to any of the other cables you might have seen in terms of quotes that have been an order of magnitude higher. The proposal was to use the initial FDFA funds for burying that cable, along with putting sidewalk in, which would about double the cost, actually a little more than that. It went from $60,000 to about $140,000, I think. With that, you would have sidewalk all the way from Stevenson Park all the way up to the Quaker Church, which would be a visible notice to the public that we're actually listening to them in terms of the sales tax revenue and using it to make the downtown area more attractive. So they are considering that. We put together a written proposal to them, which after the verbal proposal, and it's gone into their consideration. I'm sure they have many more things to spend money on than they have money, but this is one that they're looking at.
Just to clarify, you mean the sales tax revenue will be spent on that project, not FDFAs?
Sorry.
Okay. Just
Thank
wanted to
you.
be clear.
Keep me straight.
That's
Well
okay.
done.
There's a lot of
Yes.
EDCs and FDAs and blah, blah, blahs going on.
There's a lot of code letters. Yeah, so it would be the initial spending of the sales tax revenue when and if it comes in, which is supposed to happen soon.
Commissioner Lovell?
We had a library board meeting this week, and they had their grand opening, of course, back in December. The mayor did the ribbon cutting. A lot of folks in this room were even there. It was a great grand opening. And library stats are starting to come back up now that they're back open. And if you hadn't had an opportunity to take your kids and grandkids down there, the children's section is fantastic. That's it.
Commissioner Neal?
Nothing from me, thanks.
Commissioner Ammon?
Zoning Board of Adjustment didn't have a meeting last month, and they have one next week. The last time I did attend one, they were inquisitive as to the fencing ordinance change reviews. correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've taken any action on that, right? It's still up in the air. Okay, that's all I have.
Commissioner Branson?
I'd just like for the commission to know that I have officially filed for a city council position 2, so.
And I would like to also say to the commission, I have officially filed for city council position 5. Seeing no additional business, we stand adjourned. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve. Got something for us?
Oh.
Oh. Thank you.
As you just heard, 2 of your members are running for council, and I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of information on what that means. According to the city ordinances, they both have to submit letters of resignation as soon as you announce that you're running. Well, as soon as the window, because you can always pull it back, okay, until whatever February date it is. So then they have to, you can't be running for council and be on any city committees. The council doesn't have to accept the resignation, but they have to turn one in, and we could wait and see how the election turns out or how that goes. And since you're meeting, so under the anticipation we may have some openings, and the mayor has talked about this as well, there's a couple of people being invited to your Saturday retreat who have been bubbling up to the top of the interview process the last couple of times. So I think there's 3 people coming. Brett Banfield, Bart Beals, and Doug Stram have been invited. Whether they all come or not, I don't know. But they're being invited for the purpose of, 1, 2, or 3, and nobody's guaranteed them a spot or anything, but they could possibly be coming, and we'd hate to see them miss the retreat, where you guys are going to be talking about schedules and other things of interest, and I would encourage you to let them engage as they feel comfortable to do, because it would just be a helpful learning process. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Rocky. Seeing no additional business, we stand adjourned.